two pieces. There's the building and the Agora.
Yeah.
So the Agora was opened in 1966 by legendary promoter Hank Lacani. He opened at Little Italy. He was there for a year before he moved it down to 24th Street, East 24th Street in Cleveland. I was there through the mid-'80s when it moved to its current location on 55th and Euclid. So it's been there, is that going on 40 years now, I guess?
Wow.
But the building itself was built in 1912. Millionaire's Row was obviously right there.
Right.
So when it was built, it was more of a traditional opera house, type of a venue. Opened in 1913. Over the years, there's many different things, including the Hippodrome. It's a movie theater, but it really kind of got its legs back, if you will, when it was the WHK Auditorium.
Okay.
So you had the radio station right there, where Alan Freed famously coined and really drove home the term rock and roll. So nice. I like to tell the people that building is in fact the actual birthplace of rock and roll,
right?
Because by and large, it is.
It is.
Yeah. And then when Hank moved the Agora there in the mid-'80s, It became the Agora. And it's the Agora that most of us know today. Now, Hank was very ahead of his time. He had Agoras all over the U.S. and all over the world. He actually had 3 spanning into Russia once upon a time.
Oh, really?
Most people know the Akron Agora, but not a lot of people know his expansion into other markets. So now when you see the Live Nations and the AAGs of the world who have venues in multiple cities, Hank kind of was the first one to do it. He was really ahead of his time.
Hello, and welcome back to another Sub-CLE. Today, we're going to talk to a little-known business owner around town. His name is Chris Zitterbart. If anyone knows him, he runs the Cleveland Agora. He's owned the Peabodys, and we're going to get into whatever else he does. Chris? How you doing, man?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming down. I was just thinking of a way, because usually I'll have like a musician on here and I'll be like, oh, how'd you get into music? And I guess more or less, like, I kind of want to know your upbringing. Like, where'd you grow up and, where'd you go to high school and whatnot? College if you did?
Sure. From a little town in Pennsylvania called Franklin.
Okay.
A little over 2 hours away from here. And it's just a small town, nothing going on. So we would put together punk bands and hardcore bands and throw around little shows. And that's kind of what we did in our high school days.
So you are a musician?
A terrible one, but yes.
So what'd you play?
I played bass, and I figured out that I was better at promoting than playing. So I like the booking shows, promoting shows, and I really enjoy that piece of it and let the actual artists do their thing. But yeah, we used to do, find interesting places to throw concerts and events. And
so at what age were you doing that? When you realized you were a promoter at like what, 15 or something?
15.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, you'd go in, do the 8-track recording, take the cassettes and make the inserts, thank you list, and go hawk tapes and doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it was fun. It was definitely
a
cool part of it. But so I grew up, like I said, a little over 2 hours away in Pennsylvania. Okay. And I ended up going to Hiram College right down the road here and just kind of fell in love with Cleveland. When I was a kid, Pittsburgh and Cleveland were kind of equal distance. Okay. So to go to shows, sometimes we'd go to the Agora or Euclid Tavern, and sometimes we'd go down to Pittsburgh and go to Metropole or Graffiti, just depend on the artist and which was closer. But both are about 2.5 hour drives.
I see. So what'd you go to college for?
International Economics and Management, which I half joke allows me to book Norwegian black metal bands. So
nice.
Yeah, International Econ and Management was mine.
Okay, and then did you finish college?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, because I have a lot of artists and musicians and stuff come on here, and everyone just usually goes the band route and whatever, like me, but so that kind of sets you up. for international, so what you said, international business? Or was
international economics and management.
Economics, so business. It's kind of, yeah. So, I mean, that kind of sets you up for having a little bit of know-how in the business area, right? I mean.
Well, I think when you talk about college, it, shows that you can learn and accomplish something. Right. It doesn't exactly translate to practical real life experience for the most part.
Right.
As far as like the college I went to.
Yeah.
But I will say the reason I went there is I got to study in Mexico, Costa Rica, Spain, and England during my 4 years there, which was incredible.
Yeah.
Which is a wonderful life experience for me.
That's actually a great, because if it's international, you would have to have that international experience. Mm-hmm. I mean, that totally makes sense. That's cool. I took a class in college. It was a class on like Cuba. And I just recently went back to college, just recently. So, and then it was during the pandemic though, where normally that class would go visit wherever, but we couldn't go because of the pandemic was happening. But it would have been awesome to see Cuba because, it's so difficult to get there or whatever. Mm-hmm. And learned a lot of fascinating things. But, okay, so you're promoting bands, and were you successful with that? Like, was that?
I mean, at the high school level,
yeah.
Yeah, we did pretty well. We get 50, 100, 200 people out, and in a small town, that's pretty good.
And so how did that move into, because you eventually ended up acquiring Peabodys. Mm-hmm. Like, what led to that?
Well, during my college days, I would just drag people to concerts all the time. Like, wherever I could get to go to shows, we would go. So I was just always in love with music.
Right.
When I graduated, I worked for Progressive for a little under a year. Then I had a tech job in Solon that I didn't love.
Right.
But it was a good learning experience.
Yeah.
And then one day, one thing led to another, and got a chance to buy Peabodys and kind of jumped at it. At the time, the guy I was working with, we were talking about buying a computer company because we were tired of the company we were working with.
Right.
And he played in a band, and he was hanging out with Dan and Josh one night, and they were complaining about the stresses of Peabodys, of which there were many.
Yeah.
And he's like, well.
They were the previous owners. Yeah, Dan was on here.
Dan Cole and Josh Gaddy.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. And that started the ball rolling, and put together a deal and bought the place.
So they complained about, the rough time they were having. So you were like, man, I really want a piece of that.
yeah, exactly. That's pretty much what happened. So I bought Peabodys in 2005.
Okay.
So we're coming up on 20 years now, which is crazy.
Yeah.
And, with Dan and Josh, they were young guys, and they were doing something really, really cool there. And, I knew we'd have a different way of doing things, but the name was already established. It was built. And having that name just created, easy relationships with a lot of booking agencies, managers, that kind of thing. And, I think what Dan built on the booking side, people either loved it or hated it, but it was unique and it was different. It worked for what he was doing. We changed it up a bit, and it took some time. We definitely took a beating the first few years and learned some lessons.
Okay.
But ultimately, it was the Peabody's years were great. I was very poor and happy. How about that?
So you say poor because, when you're like, somebody on the outside looking in, you go to sold out shows there, and you think this place is killing it, I mean, you're getting all these like big name bands, and, I've seen so many great bands there. I can't even, it's an unlimited list. But you think, hey, wow, they're doing great. I'm thinking you're living in a mansion somewhere. What?
Well, yeah, when you're one of the 700 people at a sold out show and you're looking around, it does look great. But the next night when there's 30 people there and you're still paying the band the guarantee that you agreed to pay them, and you're just bleeding money.
Yeah.
And that's a tough part about being that developmental type of a club. That in between space where, these bands don't necessarily, you don't know what you're going to get night after night.
Right.
And, I would call it death by paper cuts. We would do 15 shows in a month that would lose money, and one good one that would make enough money to pay off the losses of the other 15.
Right.
And it's a very challenging business. So all the indie promoters in Cleveland, small venue owners, work their asses off and do a great job, and a lot of respect for the Cleveland community.
Yeah. So, because I'm just trying to think, like, so when you go into like, I'm trying to think of how to phrase this. like obviously you want to make what would it take to actually turn like a big profit with something like that? Would it have to be a bigger club with bigger names? Is it just that like that size of club that is difficult? Because I don't know.
I mean, there's a lot of aspects to it, right?
Yeah.
So I had two major things against me at Peabodys.
Mm-hmm.
One is we had a shitty Ticketmaster deal. It was just a bad deal.
How so?
We weren't really making money on the ticketing side.
Yeah.
So I didn't know this at the time. We were locked in for, it was like 3 or 5 additional years. And what ticketing companies do for the small venues is they'll recruit them, and they will recruit them based on volume, and they'll cut a big check to sign with their ticketing company.
Okay.
So, your ticket fees, call it $5-10 that the ticketing company takes. They're saying, okay, if I give you $100,000 now for a 5-year deal, I'll recoup it and make money. Okay. And as a small venue, that really helps when you get that kind of a check. I wasn't getting that kind of a check because we were stuck with Ticketmaster at the time. So that was difficult. The other thing is my rent deal sucked. It was terrible.
Yeah.
Rascal House owned the building, and they were not a great landlord. And I won't get too much further than that, but the deal was terrible. Yeah. I mean, we paid, I think it was 65% of the utility bills while they were cranking pizza ovens all day. It was just ridiculous stuff like that. But, that's what I inherited when I bought the business. So you live, you learn.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's just kind of funny because, you look at it, like I said, on the outside, I'm going there, I'm having a great time, we get to see a bunch of friends, great shows, everything, but you don't think about all these, because because what was it? Did CSU like claim that land? Is that what happened? Is that why it shut down?
I wasn't on the inside of most of it, but ultimately they bought the building from Rascal House.
Oh, they bought it.
And then they moved Rascal House down the road.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So as this is going on, so even before, I wanted to ask you, like, because Dan had that model where he'd, have the band sell tickets, and there were 3 places. There was a Pirates Cove, there was a main stage, and then there was a Rockstar upstairs. Yep. Mm-hmm. And I always thought it was a great business thing, just because if you can get, there's a bunch of bands that are around town, you know what I mean? If you can get them all in the door, at least you're filling the place up with bands. Yep. So it's like, even if they don't even bring anyone, there's still going to be sales at the bar. There's still going to be stuff going on. Yep. So you said you changed. You said you were going to make some changes to the business model. Like what kind of changes were made? So
Dan, I think we all know, was a hustler, and he would be ticket sales, ticket sales, ticket sales, right. Ticket sales, and that drove everything. And that was the model he created, and it worked. Yeah. For me, we wanted to kind of, be a kinder, gentler Peabodys, if you will. And, so we said, okay, you have to at least sell 10 tickets. And people would bitch and moan. And my thought is, if you can't draw 10 people, go home and practice. Right. And, right. That may sound cold, but, we need people in the building. Yeah. Because the model was set up the way it was, so you could pay those headliners that might not have played Cleveland or might have played a different room to bring them in. So all those ticket sales weren't about making the venue money. They were about paying the headliner to come play the show. And that's kind of what it was. If a band could make, back in those days, let's say 4,000 in Pittsburgh or 5,000 in Cleveland, because we had some extra bands selling some tickets, then we get the show. And that was kind of the way that was set up to work. So, that's kind of what we wanted to do. We didn't want to overstack all the shows the way, Mushroom Head shows are always chaos. Those are legendary for 18 bands in a night. But outside of those ones, we try to scale that back a little bit. Yeah. Which now we have the opposite issue at the Agora, where I rarely get a chance to put any local support on any shows. Oh, really? I would love to, but we just typically can't. Yeah. I think that coming out of COVID times, tours want to be on total lockdown and not have outsiders on their stage, backstage, that kind of thing, which is totally understandable. And that just kind of stuck as a way of normal course of business. So on the rare occasion we do get to put a good Cleveland band on a big show, it's awesome. I love it. Yeah. Yeah, I think
as a band, because I mean, I could see it from both ends. You know, the whole ticket sale. I know, like, people were all upset, you know, about the ticket sales, but I mean, it totally makes sense because, I mean, what would you really? I think anybody that gets upset about selling tickets is like, you got to think it through. And
did a door open or a crash? What was that?
I don't know what happened there, but I guess they didn't think it through. Like where, like you're gonna go play in front of what? Nobody, you know. And I think they think like the club is gonna bring the people,
right?
Whereas the club is expecting the band to pull the people.
That's
how that works.
Both. It needs to be a joint effort.
Yeah.
The venue, the promoter, the artist all need to be pushing and trying to get people out and hopefully sell beers and sell T-shirts, and that's the way it should work.
Yeah, and so. I kind of want to hang on the Peabodys a little bit, you know. So when you got into that, all right. So now you got Peabodys, and what was like the first like big booking that you were kind of like a little smitten about? Like you know, it was like, oh wow, I got these guys here.
Well, you know, I inherited a pretty good calendar as it was. Like I remember, like Hatebreed was one of the early shows, and I remember. We did it without a barricade, and it was a really big deal. And the tour manager's like, if anything goes wrong, it's your ass. I get it. This is going to be awesome. And it was awesome. Oh, nice. And so it was fun. I mean, for me, one that sticks out early on is Gorilla Biscuits. Okay. Gorilla Biscuits with Murphy's Law and Comeback Kid. That was an incredible one. Yeah. That was a legendary Peabody show. I really liked that one. Billy Talent was pretty cool. Yeah. Billy Talent played Peabodys and then flew to London the next day to be on MTV's big award show. So that was kind of neat.
That's cool.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah. I'm sure, you know, I go through, I have a box downstairs and there's like all these old ticket stubs. And I remember somebody was asking me like, oh, did you see this band or whatever? I'm like, no, I never saw them. And then I go through those ticket stubs and I saw them like 5 times.
Isn't that crazy? You know, I wish I would have done a better job of keeping track of all the shows I've seen and booked over the years. Because, I mean, there's the memorable ones like, you know, we did Black Veil Bride's first show in Pirates Cove. We did Skrillex's first Ohio show, I believe, in Pirates Cove. You know, we did some really, really cool stuff in that little room, but I'm kind of the same way. I've seen so many cool artists and, you know, between just the amount of shows and maybe a couple beers, you forget some of the great things that you've seen over the years. Yeah.
So the Peabodys, when did you hear that they were selling the building, and what did you get caught by surprise, or did you know it was coming, or?
I knew something was up, and, you know, we basically were trying to work through things with our landlord and different aspects, and they were asking for things that just sounded weird at the time. So that definitely, you know, some light bulbs went off, like, okay, something's going on here. And then we started hearing the rumors that CSU was talking about eminent domain, which I don't even know if that actually could have happened. Okay. But at the end of the day, they did their deal, and we were out of our lease.
Okay. And then, because I know, man, there was some Jigsaw stuff. What happened with that? You want to go into that?
How much time you got? Yeah. Yes.
Phil Lara, everyone's favorite person around town.
Phil. Right? Yeah, so let me see. Everybody, when he started booking the Jigsaw, when he took over the Jigsaw, I guess the talk of the town was he was going to put Peabody's out of business, and that was it. Right. You know, and I heard this, who's the dude's going to put you out of business? I've never met the guy. I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, I meet him at a show at House of Blues one night, and it's like, hey, Chris, and, you know, we go to the Jigsaw. He has someone make me a steak, and we have, you know, we hit it off. We were fine. We were good. Peabody's was in a lot of trouble at that point in time. My business partner had a lot of issues that I don't know if I want to get into, but we were pretty much close to bankrupt. We were in a rough spot. Yeah. And Phil basically said, hey, if you want to bring Peabody's into this thing, you can book all these clubs that he supposedly was working with, being, you know, Hi-Fi at the time, Jigsaw, Peabody's. He was working with Agora for a bit. Mm-hmm. And he's like, here, I have this line of credit for you to go work with and start booking shows. And, you know, it was a bit of an act of desperation, I guess. And I said, all right, we'll give it a shot. But if it doesn't work, we're out. he's like, yeah, that's totally fine. And first time I said, okay, we have this band coming up. I need to send $1,500 to the agency for a deposit. And he couldn't send $1,500 for a deposit for a band. And I'm like, fuck this, we're out.
Yeah.
You're talking about you have all this money for us to utilize and help grow the scene in Cleveland, and you can't send $1,500. This is not a good sign.
Whoa.
And this is a true story. I carried a check signed by Phil in my briefcase up until very recently with his signature on it.
Oh yeah.
To remind myself that it's fucking bullshit until you know it's real. Is that honest enough answer in how my relationship was with Phil?
Yeah, I mean, it was fun. What was going on at the Jigsaw was kind of fun, But because I don't know exactly because there was like a write up in Scene, I think, and they had this huge, and it's like where is he now? Did he just take off? Nobody knows or whatever.
He bounced a lot of checks and,
Yeah.
I mean, he made life really difficult for me at the Agora.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because he stiffed the Black Keys.
I heard that. Yeah, I think that was in that article, maybe.
I'm sure it was. So it was a really big deal. And this is public knowledge. So I'm not saying anything here that's completely shocking and new. But no, he didn't pay one of the biggest bands in Ohio.
In the world.
Yeah. Yes. Because I did 2 nights at the Agora.
Yeah.
And so then every agency in the world is like, well, nobody's allowed to play the Agora anymore.
Wow.
So when I took over the Agora, people I've known 8-10 years were like, I'll use Slayer as a great example.
Yeah.
Their agent is a great guy. And obviously booking Slayer at the Agora was incredible. But it's like, all right, Chris, you need to send 50% now when we book the show, 8 months before the show, and 50% 2 weeks before they play. So I had to pay Slayer 100% before the show played off.
Wow.
And I'm like, dude, you know me. I've always paid your bands. Always. He's like, I get it. I know. This is a one-time thing. And that's what it was.
Wow.
And
that's crazy.
And I love this agent. We've done a ton of business ever since, and we're good. But
yeah.
that was the price I had to pay to get the ball rolling at the Agora. Stuff like that.
Okay, so let's go into that. So how did that come about?
So I looked at a few different places. One that's kind of interesting. I looked at the old Metropolis.
Oh, yeah.
And didn't end up being
That's at the West Bank of the Flats.
Correct.
It was Trilogy as well.
It was, yes. So the fascinating thing, coming full circle, AEG is redeveloping that space.
I read that.
Opening that in March of 2025. Yeah. So a room I thought about taking over once upon a time, I get to book next year.
Oh, that's funny.
So that's pretty exciting. I'm
happy
cool,
about that.
Yeah. So anyway, I looked at a few different buildings. And then I had a meeting with Fred Geis and Midtown, and it was a really great meeting. And, they're like, these are the parameters. We think that you'd be a great guy to help bring this place back.
Fred Geis is...
He's a very successful developer.
Okay.
You see Geis construction vehicles all over town. He and his brother are very, very successful businessmen in the city. And Fred was great. We had a great conversation, and he really did some things to help, set it up and get the ball rolling. So he had his expectations and I had mine.
Yeah.
And mine were, okay, I'll do all these things, but you have to give me an option to buy the building.
Okay.
And he said, that sounds fair. So that's what we did.
So was Hank around still? Hank LeConte, the previous owner of the Agora, right?
Yeah. So Hank was kind of like, Hank is the Agora, always will be. He's such a great icon, and I don't know, Hank is legendary. Yeah. So Hank was there, but there only weren't any shows happening, right? So one of the parameters that Fred said, which I was going to say, is Hank has to be involved in this, and I'm like, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, Hank is so important to the Agora in the city. So Hank and I were working together. For a short period of time. Sadly, he passed away a little over a year and a half into what we were working on. But man, I loved sitting there and hearing his stories. And just being around him and just, man, you want to talk about stories. That guy's got the best. He's incredible. So that's basically what happened. I executed the purchase option on the building.
Yeah.
Was kind of running it, bootstrapping it, if you will. And then I did my deal with AEG. And AEG is the second biggest concert promoter in the U.S. It's owned by one person out in Colorado.
Really?
As opposed to Live Nation, which is a corporation.
Oh, wow.
So it's a different type of a company, which is interesting and pretty cool.
Yeah.
But AEG put a lot of money into the Agora, and
Okay.
the renovation I think is incredible, and I'm really, really happy with it.
Oh, nice.
So, after we did our deal, I co-own the building and the name with them.
Okay.
And I'm an employee for them who books
AEG.
shows. Mm-hmm.
So AEG is not affiliated with Geist at all?
No.
Okay.
Totally
That's
different.
Totally different. Okay. So how did AEG seek you out, or the Agora, or?
I think that AEG has been wanting a presence in Cleveland for a long time.
Okay.
And the chief legal counsel for AEG has a lot of love for Cleveland, Ohio.
Okay.
And he went to Ohio State.
Oh, nice.
And his wife's from here. So he and I started talking, and we wanted to make something work. And we put together a deal that I think was really good for both of us.
Yeah. Nice. So AEG now because they're like Jacob's Pavilion too.
Mm-hmm.
Is that like what are all the things they have?
So AEG is probably most known for Coachella.
Okay.
I'll be heading out there this weekend for the first time, which I'm
Nice.
looking forward to. So yes, they have Coachella.
Okay.
They have a bunch of big festivals. They have over 100 venues in the U.S. Staples Center and that whole part of L.A. They have a major hand in all of that.
Oh, wow.
So it's a really cool company. And
it's just one guy that owns it.
Yes.
That's crazy.
Yeah, he's actually Mr. Anschutz has become a billionaire in 3 different industries.
Wow.
So guy, smart dude.
Yeah. And so but he started with Coachella? Is that what happened?
No. Paul actually, I don't know if he started that independently and then did a deal with AG later on. I want to say I'm not expert in that. I did watch the Coachella documentary over COVID times because what else am I going to do? But that was a little while back. But yeah, so they either own it or co-own it.
Okay. How long ago did that? Because I've never been to a Coachella, so I'm not sure.
I've been to Stagecoach. So
Okay.
this will be my first time at Coachella. It's the same site. And my buddy Mark Gerton is a Cleveland guy, runs the space out there, which is great. It'll be good to see him next week. Yeah. So a lot of Cleveland connections out there.
Yeah. So what are the big bands playing this year? What is it like?
It's like a No Doubt reunion. I'm excited about Deftones and Blur. I think those are going to be fun.
I would be too.
But a lot of up and coming, and the landscape's changing. So a lot of Latin artists, some K-pop stuff. They always have a strong EDM presence.
Right.
It's a very diverse kind of lineup.
Okay. And I sound so stupid right now because is that Kentucky? Is that
Coachella?
Yeah.
It is Southern California. It's
it's in Southern.
It's real close to Palm Springs.
Okay.
It's 45 minutes maybe from Palm Springs.
Okay, that's why you said you were going out to Palm Springs. Yeah. So that kind of makes sense then. Okay, so you're affiliated with that company, so you get all the perks of going all these other places, and
yeah. They do most of the bookings at Red Rocks, which is the best venue, and
these are all the cool. Yeah,
it's incredible.
Yeah.
So at our meeting a couple years ago, it was out in Denver, so we got to go see David Crosby open for Jason Isbell at Red Rocks. I'm like, that's pretty neat.
Nice.
Cool.
So do you have any? So you're with this company. So do you ever think about just opening up like a little small venue or anything like that? Just some that you could run, or?
I'm not there yet, right?
Yeah.
So right now, obviously the Agora keeps me very, very busy.
Sure.
I have I bought a house to do an Airbnb, so I get that as a second business.
Oh, okay.
So that's fun. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Will I open another small venue down the road? Maybe.
Yeah.
The reality is, under my employment agreement, I have a non-compete. I can't open a venue in Ohio. I could go back to Pennsylvania and open one if I wanted to.
Okay,
but
nice.
So anything I would do musically, I'd probably do in conjunction with AEG right now.
Right.
Anyway. Just because it works.
Mm-hmm.
But, as of this time next year, I'm going to have a 1,200 cap club, a 2,000 cap club, and a 4,500 Jacobs Pavilion I can all book. So I'll have my hands full with that. And recently we brought on James Carroll to be the main buyer at the new 1,200 cap building, which I'm pretty excited about.
Nice.
So getting to work with James has been really, really good.
So in that venue, is that going to be rock bands and just what's the name of it? You guys
Globe Iron.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So they're basically paying homage to the history of that building.
Oh, why? What is the history of that building?
It used to be a ironworks factory back in the day. So yeah, they wanted to keep that kind of vibe. So
that's cool.
We're going through all the marketing stuff and what it's going to look like and all those things now. But it's going to be really cool. I mean, it's going to be neat.
Well, because Jacob's Pavilion, I think, is one of the best. If it's a nice night, it's one of the best venues.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds great. You got the whole city in the background. Yep. I mean, it really is. I don't know of too many cities that have something quite like that. It's pretty unique.
It really is. And a lot of people haven't seen Cleveland like that. So, for example, when I did the Clutch show there last summer, their tour manager's a friend of mine, and he's like, "Wow, this is Cleveland." And I'm like, yeah, this is Cleveland.
Yeah.
And we drove around. He's like, "Man, this is really developing. This is kind of cool."
Yeah.
So that was kind of neat. It's just a good vibe. People don't expect to go to Cleveland and just be chilling on, beside the river on a nice, beautiful night and watching boats go by.
Yeah.
It's a really cool space.
Yeah, I remember seeing, because I think that same summer Les Claypool played, and I just remember him commenting. He's like, "Wow, this is cool. You can see boats going by."
Yep.
It's cool. And this is one thing I've been wondering. What's up with the ballroom at the Agora?
Ballroom. So we do not book bands in there anymore.
No, why not?
So when I started, the ballroom was kind of Peabodys 2.0, because we were basically just booking the same types of artists I had been for the last 6, 7, 8 years. So it was working really, really well. So we were ramping that up to help us get to a point where the theater was ready to do the bigger shows. We got to that point, fast forward, working with AAG, and the VP of the region was like, "Hey, we should probably stop booking the ballroom." And I'm like, I kind of like doing it. I don't know if we should. And he's like, "Well, do me a favor. Look at the last 12 months. How did you do financially on ballroom shows?"
Right.
I'm like, all right. We did a whole year's worth of shows and made nothing. And I'm like, okay, this makes sense. So, that's the cold, hard reality of it. It's just not profitable, because, at a 500 capacity room, the way we do things, we have a police officer every event. We have an EMT every event. We have walkthroughs. It's a different world. Every single exit needs to be covered by security. Right. You saw what happened in Russia with the attack recently, and in Florida a few years ago. You have to take security very seriously. So it's not like the Peabodys days where I could have the manager be the door guy and the security guy, and that's it. You just can't run it thin like that anymore.
Yeah.
So long story short, I said, look, you're better off playing Beachland or Class or Foundry or Mahal's or wherever.
There's tons of places.
Go do this, because you can make more money as an artist there, because you don't have the overhead that I do to run a show.
Right.
So also the merch area is awesome. Merch people come in and they see the setup and they get air conditioning and there's room for lines, and obviously merch sales are crazy. I've never seen anything like what merch is like after COVID times.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I have noticed. I've been going to concerts as long as I've been able to get out of the house, I guess. But I did notice, like, every show I go to now, the merch line is super crazy long, and I don't know that I've ever seen that. Usually it'll get long like after the show, but it's like as soon as you get in the venue, it's super long.
It is.
You think it's because of COVID?
I don't know what the change was. I can't tell you what changed the consumer dynamic.
Yeah.
But yes, there's a lot of shows where people get there and go straight to the merch line. I mean, a lot of artists sell VIP meet and greets, and part of it is you can be the first in the merch line. There's value to that. It's strange, but it's great. And
it's good for the bands. I mean,
yeah, because obviously when CD sales and album sales started to dip and everybody's streaming, my concept is always, well, you can't download a t-shirt, right?
Right.
You can, be on Spotify and listen all you want, but if you still want that product from the show, you're going to buy it there at the show.
That's a good point too, because, part of, I don't even know if it was necessarily, when you had to buy CDs, it was like just to have that physical, tangible thing that you had of that band.
Yep.
And it's from them. It's like, you don't really have that. But yeah, and that probably is a big factor. And I never really thought about it until just now, honestly. They want that tangible something. They don't have CDs anymore.
Right.
There's no tapes or anything.
Like you talked about going and looking through your ticket stubs for the shows you went to. I used to do it all the time. We don't have ticket stubs anymore.
No. Yeah.
So you have that poster you bought or that shirt you bought or whatever it is.
Yeah, that is a good point.
And, it's just become such a part of the experience. And it's cool because artists are making a lot more money because of it.
Yeah.
It's good.
Now, do you see, does AEG take a part of the merch sales?
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, so like, do you foresee that, do you think it's fair what it is now? I don't want you to talk crap about the company you work for.
No. I think this is a great topic that there's been this whole merch cuts are stealing from bands thing. Right. And it's either naive or untruthful, to be completely honest with you. 2 reasons. One is when someone like me puts together an offer for an artist, they are getting paid based upon money that comes in.
Right.
Ticket sales, merch cuts, things like that. So merch cuts actually help the headliner make more money, flat out.
Right.
And people don't always see the nuance of that. I personally don't like merch cuts for up-and-coming bands that aren't making much money. Opening bands, I don't like that part of it.
So merch cut, that's the term that I'm not familiar with.
Okay, so a merch cut is the artist has to pay 15, 20, 25% of their sales.
Oh, okay. So okay. Yeah, okay.
So it's depending on the size of the room and that kind of a thing. So yes, I think merch cuts are rational because of the business and how things are done. And also another piece I think no one really thinks about at all is like at the Agora, we have a really good merch area.
Right.
And it's great. It's comfortable for the people selling. Right. They can make more money. If we weren't making any money off merch, we would not be incentivized to have a nice space for them. We would turn it into another bar or something that would make money.
I see.
So
in that regard, that makes sense.
So I think merch cuts help actually give the merch sellers a better experience and help headliners make more money. And again, for the opening bands and stuff, I feel for them a bit. But overall, the way the business works, that's part of the business.
So merch cut has always been a part of the business model that you've been involved in, even going back to Peabodys?
Peabodys, what I would, and it was, obviously it was different because it was just me making the decisions instead of some of the things I have to go through now. But most of my deals, the way I would do it was any band that was making under $1,000, we wouldn't take a merch cut. If you're making 1,000 or more, we'd take a merch cut. Or if you sold out the show, you didn't have to pay a merch cut because it's like an extra bonus.
Right.
So basically for me, it was trying to stop the bleeding on bad shows.
Right.
Because there's a lot of nights where I was paying a band $5,000 and only doing $1,000 in ticket sales.
Right.
And, that hurts. And the merch cut helps balance that a little bit.
So are there people in the, because the reason why I asked why you thought it was fair, because I definitely think there should be merch cuts. If you're providing the facility, definitely it's a business, but I'm just wondering if it gets to the point where you have like somebody, like Live Nation did with tickets and stuff like that, where it's like, then you just start gouging, and do you think that's like an area that might get exploited in the future? I don't know.
The merch portion of it or everything? Because everything's getting more expensive. I can tell you that.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying, can you see AEG saying, you know what, we're going to take 75%.
It's hard to say. Yeah. Everything kind of evolves. And
or not just AEG, but other companies,
right. Yeah. I mean, you're seeing, it feels like in Europe, the fees are really, really, really high.
Are they?
Yeah. I think 15 to 25% is pretty standard. And I think that's reasonable. That works. Would the big companies ask for more down the road? Maybe.
Yeah.
Ticket fees is another thing. I know people don't like ticket fees.
Right.
It's expensive. I get it. But I'll tell you the truth, man. I go back to Peabodys. I tried to keep ticket prices cheap. I tried to keep beers cheap. and we could barely survive.
Right.
So
no, that makes sense.
And the other thing is, since our drink prices went up, people don't puke in their urinals anymore.
Yeah, right. That's the thing.
They're not buying 18 Jägermeisters and, whatever.
Yeah.
We get a lot less drunken fights. We get a lot less disorderly stuff. But I also think that's another thing that's changing. A lot of our younger fans just don't drink as much.
Yeah. Probably a lot more like ecstasy, Molly, and stuff like that.
It's different. Yeah, different type of substances, and I think we're still waiting to see how the new marijuana laws are going to work in Ohio. But yeah, things are changing.
Yeah, and the whole, because I noticed a lot of bands will like skip over Cleveland, and that's happened like the past 10 years or so. I don't know. You don't see that?
I think I hear that a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know if I agree with it.
Okay.
Right? Because bands are going to play Chicago and New York.
Right.
In between, you got Pittsburgh, Columbus, Detroit, Cleveland. You don't want to play them all because then people get to pick and choose which one to go to, and it hurts the draw. I would say for a long time, Promo West is doing a great job of having bands play Pittsburgh, Columbus, thereby skipping Cleveland. But I feel like we've done a really good job getting a lot of these shows back in the pipeline.
Right.
And I work closely with the Promo West guys. They're great guys.
Okay.
Overall, I don't feel a lot misses, but we do have an admission tax in Cleveland that they don't have in Detroit, that they don't have in Columbus.
That's what I was going to ask about.
8% of your ticket is going to the city of Cleveland.
Yeah.
And
is that just Cleveland or Ohio?
Cleveland.
Okay.
That is Cleveland. And it does hurt when you're at that arena. It hurts at all levels, but when you're at that arena level and you're paying, you got $1 million coming in ticket sales, and you're losing 8% of that, you could be paying the artists or your expenses.
Yeah.
It does impact the decisions.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, because I don't know if there's any truth to this or not, but I forgot the one governor, Kasich, I think maybe, where it kind of changed, where we started seeing a lot more like big time movies being filmed here, but then it almost seemed like local artists were staying away, and I didn't know if there was some kind of tax that was imposed on them that was forgiven for the larger companies, or I don't know if I'm making this up in my head.
No, you may be, and it's tough because it's not just Cleveland. I think a lot of cities will entice new business to come in and kind of neglect that the ones that are already here.
Yeah.
Take care of the people who are stabilizing your economy too.
Right.
We all want job growth and new opportunities, absolutely. But having those of us who are here and stable, bringing in more people was a good thing too.
Yeah. Okay, so that's interesting. That's an interesting take, because I talk to so many people and everyone feels like there's bands missing. But I'm gonna take your word for it, because you're looking at a bunch more data than I am. I'm only looking at the data of my favorite artists or band or something like that,
And also there's an emotional component, right?
Right.
If your favorite band isn't playing Cleveland, you notice. If someone you don't give a shit about isn't playing Cleveland or is playing Cleveland, you don't notice. So, anytime, Iron Maiden's not playing Cleveland, I know they're only playing like 20 shows. It's...
Yeah. Do you have, because just as getting older and, for some reason, it's like when you're younger, it's like, it's like you almost find these bands before they make it, Now it's like I'm finding out about these bands after they make it. And I'm like, how do you, what is that? And is there a part of your company or you do something that kind of keeps your ear to the street, kind of keeps fresh? Like, what is that?
Yeah. So in the Peabodys days, this is MySpace, right? This is before Spotify. This is before YouTube.
Right.
You had to make decisions based upon, maybe the agent mails you a CD and you check it out and you're like, hey, this is cool. But you didn't have analytics and data and metrics to go off of to try to figure out if a band's going to draw or not. Where now you can go on Spotify, YouTube. You can look at the number of streams that are happening. Another thing is, my Peabodys days, I was on my own. I'd call buddies in Detroit and Pittsburgh and Columbus and say, hey, what do you think about this? Or how is this working? But within AAG, and the same thing within Live Nation, is we have access to everything that's happening in the entire company. So I can see how a band did every single market that played AEG rooms their last tour. And I can kind of see what people are feeling. And the other cool thing is we have regular calls where we just all get together and talk. Hey, this is a cool band. Check them out. These guys are coming through. Right. And it kind of creates a lot more opportunities. It's just, I went from struggling to find data to having just too much data, which is a good problem.
It is a good problem. It's just going through that data and trying to figure it out. I think it just resets every little bit. So, yeah, because I mean, that's because I like listening to new bands and stuff like that. And it really is, I wonder, like, what is it that kids are doing differently than what I'm doing? I mean, maybe it's just word of mouth stuff, but where is that originally coming from? Because, I heard about, a ton of bands like Incubus, Pantera, stuff like that, way before they got like super huge, And it's like, I don't even know how I found out about it, but now I'm just not finding out about things.
Interesting.
Mean? So,
well, I think when we were younger, we had to go search for music, and it was part of what we did. I mean, I'll tell you, I like this. So growing up in a small town of Pennsylvania, we had one record store.
Yeah.
And we would literally go to the record shop, go through the CDs, whichever album had the most shortest songs, we'd buy that CD.
Oh, yeah.
And that's how I found Fear and Descendants and DRI and all that stuff that I love. That's literally, this is before you could just pop on the headphones and listen to it or anything like that. And we had to go search for music. Now it's just so much access and it's so easy. If you pop on YouTube, you're getting all these recommendations and you could go down a rabbit hole for however long you want and find new music if you want to.
Right.
Same thing with Pandora. I used to listen to that a lot and find all kinds of, new artists. I rarely listen to Pandora these days. Right. But there was a point in time when that was a way of finding new music. Same
here, yeah. Yeah, it was interesting. I liked the Pandora algorithm because a good friend of mine once said too, it's just weird that any kind of rock you listen to, Tool comes on. No matter what it is, heavy metal, rock, but I thought Pandora was a good algorithm. I use Spotify now, and it's when it runs out and then it starts picking songs that it thinks you might like or whatever. Yeah, cool. But it seemed like Pandora introduced me to new things, whereas the Spotify just kind of plays things I already know, And and I also say too, it's like I have this unlimited catalog of things, and it's almost too overwhelming. Your brain just kind of shuts down when it's given too many opportunities.
Yep, it does.
So I guess back in the day, when you go into Perry's Rock Pile, I don't know if you're familiar with that. Yeah, and man, you got and Perry would give you the rundown. As soon as you walk in the door, I got the new Exploited, I got this, and I got what, whatever,
For me, it was Ides in Pittsburgh and Record Country in Erie. Those were my spots growing up. And you just that sense of community, and you listen to that person, you believe them because this is what they do. And I found so many great artists.
Yeah. So when did you actually officially make the move over into Cleveland?
I went to college over here the late 90s.
Okay.
So, and then basically when I was 17, so well over half my life I've lived over here.
Yeah. Nice. And so, you spend, I'm sure, a lot of time at the Agora, and you have say in the acts that do come through there?
Yeah, I book probably 90% of the acts that come through.
Really?
Yeah. So our Detroit team brings some stuff in. We have a touring team out of LA who's really good, and in Nashville, I should say as well, who've been they're great. And the neat thing about the way they do things, it's different than what Live Nation does. What they actually do is they say, hey, we have this artist coming through. Do you want them to play the Agora? And instead of here, this has to play the Agora, which is kind of nice. So I get to have some say into this makes sense, this doesn't make sense.
Right. Now, with the Live Nation aspect of it, I know there's controversy going on, with Live Nation and their ticket fees and the way they run the ticket sales. What are your feelings on all that stuff?
I think it's fascinating that the U.S. government doesn't give a damn until someone can't get a Taylor Swift ticket. That's the power of Taylor Swift. Good for her. So ticket fees are high. There's no doubt about that, and I don't think they're going down. And it's a high level. It's because of the way the business is. So when you're putting together a deal for an artist, the artist basically most of the time wants 85 to 100% of the potential ticket revenue after expenses. So you have to make money somewhere. So that's where this is kind of like a lot of it's coming from. The old days, it was just Ticketmaster making the money. Right. Now more people than just the ticketing company make money at it. But at the same point in time, it's
why are there more people? Like what? I don't.
Well, because it used to be that Ticketmaster would take their $5, $10, whatever, and that would be it. And then, like when I talked about the ticketing companies who would do deals to kind of like try to get you to sign with them, they give you, $50,000 or whatever the number is, and they say, oh, and you get $1 a ticket, or you get $2 a ticket, or whatever. Right. So that all gets compiled into a ticket fee. So to pretend that, promoters don't make any money off ticket fees isn't accurate. Okay. But at the same point in time, it's because you're trying to pay the artist as much as possible on the guarantee side. So it's just where we are as an industry right now.
Yeah, because, it is like a more recent thing. And I remember years ago, it was like an online ticketing fee for a show at the House of Blues. So I was like, okay, well, I'm downtown all the time. I'll just pop in there and buy a ticket. So I'm like, all right. Well, you didn't have to pay the online fee, but you had to pay the facility fee. Yeah. I was like, wait, why didn't I? I don't know. So I don't know. Yeah. It's like they're hiding it somehow. And it seems like, like with airlines, and it's like, you buy the ticket and then you fly like Frontier or something like that. And then you got to pay for the seat. If you want a printed boarding pass, you have to pay for that. Yep. And, whereas like, it seems like, and you went to school for economics. I did not. So, but, it just seems like, say you're going to charge like $100 for something, and then you're going to charge another 50 and then another 20. Whereas if you just charge 170 right off the bat, it seems more honest, and it seems to me at least like I would rather just buy that and just not feel like I'm getting nickel and dimed. Is that something to that, or I don't know?
Well, I think there's a few pieces to that. Yes, that's kind of what I would like it to be. It's a little more transparent, but that's not the way it's going to be. I think part of it is the emotional thing where you've already bought the thing, so you're ready to hit checkout, and then you get hit with extras. You're typically not going to go back and say no. Right. I flew to St. Pete 2 years ago. It was either Spirit or Frontier, and it cost more money for my bag to go there and back than it did for my human body to go there and back. I'm like, this is insane. It's crazy. The all-in pricing does make sense. It will take a significant shift in the music business if and when that happens. Right. Because again, the face value of that ticket is how you're paying the artist. The extra is how everybody else is making money today. Right. And the other big, pain point people talk about right now is dynamic pricing. Right. Right. So that's a very, very big issue. And I understand when people don't like it, but there's rationale to it. Yeah. So the first thing I would say is when there's a pre-sale, buy the ticket on the pre-sale. That's before dynamic pricing can kick in, and then you're set. You don't got to worry about it. But the dynamic pricing exists because if StubHub or pick any other secondary market is selling tickets at a markup, they're keeping that money. Right. Whereas if the dynamic pricing is sold within the platform, whether it's Ticketmaster or Access or whatever, then the money goes to the show and is split with the artist. Okay. So if you are one of those people who gets stuck paying dynamic pricing, at least take some comfort in some of that money's going to the artist and not to a broker.
Well, it sometimes it works out in your favor, and hotels and airlines have been doing this forever.
Absolutely.
And I just don't think Wendy's should start doing it. I don't know. But no, it makes sense. I mean, it worked out in my favor. I was looking at tickets for a 311 show at Jacobs Pavilion, and they were like $300 for like right in the center, great seats, And I was like, I'm not willing to pay that. Well, the day of, those same tickets were available for $80.
There you go.
So I was like, well, I was at that 311 show then, So it does, and I say the same thing like with tickets and hotels, and it's like, the prices change constantly, and it's like you can wait till that day, and it'll probably go down if it's available.
If it's available, right?
But you're taking a gamble,
Correct.
And it's like a gambling thing,
It is.
Yeah. So I mean, I get the whole dynamic. I don't know. How do you feel about like Wendy, like fast food doing it? Because they're talking about that, right?
So I saw the headline. I didn't really get into it.
Yeah.
I think anytime you have data-driven economy and you can scale, people are going to do that.
Yeah.
They're going to maximize opportunity. It's just where we are as a society right now.
Well, I see it happening with like Uber Eats and those delivery services, whereas like if you go to the restaurant, like prices are cheaper, and it seems like later at night too the prices go up at some places, like a gyro place. I know for sure it does, but because I'm like late at night, you're like, I want a gyro, and it's like I'm not paying $20 for a regular gyro.
I mean, like I took an Uber home last night.
Yeah,
it was cheap. I'm gonna Uber on Monday, opening day, solar eclipse. It's gonna be expensive.
Right.
That's just supply and demand and surge pricing and dynamic pricing.
Right. But does it work with everything?
No, but we vote with our dollars. If you don't like it, go somewhere else. Don't go to Wendy's. Right. Go get
that's a good point.
Different option.
Yeah. I mean, economics is like it's weird because it's like a science, but it's not a science because it's not like a real thing. You're dealing with money that just really doesn't even really exist. It's a,
how does he put it? So I read this great book called Sapiens.
Yeah.
And basically one of the main themes, it's a phenomenal book. One of the main themes is we humans have done so well because we've created these shared imaginations.
Yeah.
So we have this concept of money because money isn't real, but we believe it has value, so it has value.
Right.
And he talks about that with religion and a bunch of different things that kind of hold us together in common bonds that we built a structure of society on that aren't necessarily real things, but we agree they're real, so they are.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I always use the example as like art. It's whatever somebody's willing to pay for, and money is exactly the same thing. You with your economics degree. So how do you feel?
Which, by the way, I'm like 25 years removed from that.
No,
so.
I know, but you're in a business, and you are looking at data, and that's basically
Yeah, I work with numbers constantly.
Yeah. So So do you have any passion projects? That might not be the most lucrative, but you just kind of want to see that band in Cleveland at the Agora.
Yeah. So I used to give myself one a year that I didn't care. I just loved the band, so we're going to do it.
Yeah.
And now that I, work for someone else, essentially, I have to be a little more responsible with that.
Yeah.
But I'll take bigger swings on something that I really like, but I'll also go the opposite direction where I'll ask my staff and I'll be like, look, I love this band. Does anyone else give a shit? Are people coming to this? I may love it, but does it do other people? So I try to walk that line. Okay. And because I want to see bands that I like.
Right.
No doubt about it.
Sure.
But there's a lot of bands that I booked that I wouldn't even have known if they weren't routing and I didn't dig into them.
Yeah.
So, but I still love music and I love going out to shows. And that's the other piece of it. At the Agora, I get to see bands, but I don't really get to see full shows there. I always get pulled into something, which is fine.
Yeah.
But I love going to Class or Foundry or wherever where I can just have a beer and watch some bands. And
That's awesome.
I'm not jaded on it. After all these years, I still like doing it.
No, well, yeah. I mean, how could you? I mean, so yeah, just with the whole passion project thing, I'm just curious. Like, so is there one like this year that you had, or what was the last one that you can remember?
Yeah, so last year I booked one of my favorite bands.
Yeah.
And it just underperformed, and I'm bummed. And it's like one of those bands. I'm like, why doesn't Cleveland understand this band?
Who is it?
Baroness. I love Baroness.
Me
They're
too.
such a great band, but we only had like 400 people there. And I'm like, what is going on, people?
That is weird.
This band's incredible.
Yeah, because they did that show at May Halls too, not too long ago. Wasn't it?
Awesome.
Yeah.
That was so good.
I saw you posted that you were there, and I was really jealous because I really wanted to go to that.
And that was a really cool concept. It was like, I don't know, it was like $100 ticket or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And like the fans picked the first set, and they played 2 full sets.
Nice.
And you got a piece of John's art at part of your ticket price.
Oh, nice.
And they played really small venues, and I got to hang out with Matt Fish and just watch the show.
That's
and
cool.
My buddy Craig, and it was an awesome night. It was really, really cool. Yeah, but Baroness, they're just so damn good. I don't understand why Cleveland doesn't get it.
No, and it seems like because it's not like they're doing bad. I mean, they're a pretty well-known band. I mean, I'm sure. Yeah. So
I first heard them when they opened for Converge at Peabodys years ago.
Yeah.
And I'm like, holy shit, what is this?
Yeah.
And they're just such a unique band, and just
they're great.
Love it.
Yeah. So they do better in other markets though.
Yeah, a little bit, but they're still one of those bands that I'm just like, they should be bigger.
It is a shame. I agree. I totally agree. You know, because you got somebody like Mastodon, which I do enjoy Mastodon, but I mean, somebody like Baroness though, man, there's just so much more to it. It seems, you know, and it seems like it almost could grab like it seems almost like Mastodon's moving more into a Baroness kind of realm, you know, the more and more they go on. But it just seems more accepting, you know, to a larger, you know, crowd, you know, because the melodies and everything is just so great hey, this is supposed to be a Cleveland show. We're talking about, I don't know where Baroness is from, but
they're East Coast.
All right, yeah. But yeah, I mean, where do you see, so you got the new building, but as far as the Agora, because there's that Masonic Temple too, Temple Live. Did that cut into any business at all? Or
yeah, we definitely compete on shows. The guy who books the shows is a friend of mine. I've known him for many, many years. Yeah. So we definitely have some friendly competition going on there.
Okay. And
same thing with House of Blues. The talent buy over there is a good friend of mine. And yeah, you compete on shows, and it's good for the artists because they make more money that way. And, you know, you want to see the right artists in the right rooms.
So how does that work? Peel back the curtain here. So how does that work then? Does the artist shop around?
Yeah. So artists typically have a manager and a booking agent. So I interact with booking agents constantly.
Right.
And the agents basically solicit offers. Say, okay, send me what you want to pay this band. Here's the ticket price, or here's what we need, or whatever it is. And then the agent and the manager talk and say, okay, well, let's use Cleveland, for example. House of Blues sent this amount of money. Agora sent this amount of money. Temple Live sent this amount of money. Which one do you want to play? And sometimes the money is the only thing that matters. And other times it's the size of the room or the vibe. You know, it just depends on the artist and the tour. But most of the time, the amount of money
is a big part of it. Do they come back at you and say, well, Temple's willing to give us this. Do you want to match that? Or
it depends on the agent and the situation, right? I mean, you know, for those of us who've been doing a long time, we have a lot of, you know, good relationships. And there's some agent that just want the bands to play the right rooms. So yes, they will have that conversation to try to get the money where they need it to be to put the artist in the room that they want. There's other times they're just going to say, okay, here's the right amount of money. I'm working on all these shows. I'm just going to take the highest money for this market because I got to worry about New York or Chicago where the real money is being made, or Denver, that kind of a situation.
What's a band that does well in Cleveland that probably doesn't do well anywhere else? Well, other than, you're going to say Mushroom.
You know who I'm going to say. I mean, I love doing the Mushroom at Halloween shows. Yeah. They are so much fun. Watch for announcement soon. No, it's just such a great part of Cleveland history.
Yeah.
And Cleveland does have a certain amount of nostalgia, and they love the annual thing. I mean, St. Patty's Day, I go out every year. I just do.
Right.
Mushroom at Halloween, I'm going to go every year and be part of it. It's just awesome, and I love that. But if you're talking about, bands that draw well in Cleveland, I think Cleveland has a really good metal and hip hop foundation.
Okay.
I think those two genres do really, really well. I would say now I've been doing a lot more indie and country, and that's been going well. But I wasn't doing as much of that in the past. That's been cool. Coming out of COVID times, comedy shows.
Really?
We do so many comedy shows, and it's awesome.
Really?
It's a lot of fun.
At the Agora?
Yeah.
Really? I didn't even know.
Yeah, we've done a lot of really big comedians. So that's been neat.
Now, you think there's like a Joe Rogan effect on that? Because he's a popular show, and he does have a lot of comedians on there.
He does.
And you think maybe that why would you say COVID? Like, why would comedy shows
because after that shit, we all need to laugh.
Yeah, right.
And just, release and have a good time.
Yeah.
So I think that was kind of the initial piece of it. And, the comedy landscape has just changed so much. It's not Comedy Central days. It's the Netflix comedians. Right. And, Netflix seems to take care of comedians a lot better.
Oh, really?
The specials coming out and they're making more money. And we book a lot of the Netflix comedians, which has been great. It's been a lot of fun.
Do they do any specials there?
Bert Kreischer did Hey Big Boy at the Agora.
How'd that go?
It was incredible. We had 7 sold out shows.
Wow.
And Joe Rogan actually...
I was going to say, talk about the Joe Rogan thing.
Joe Rogan actually shared a picture of Bert standing on the Agora stage, which is pretty cool. If you watch Hey Big Boy, that was shot at the Agora. We still have his stage props at the Agora from that, which is really, really cool. And it was a chaotic, stressful week, but it was awesome. Yeah. Bert is a cool dude.
So why was it so stressful? Just, trying to get it...
So when you are... Man, I hate to even say up and coming.
Yeah.
But I think Bert was going from fairly well known, but not the star he is today yet.
Yeah.
And he knew that special was a big deal.
Right.
So he was just under a lot of pressure and stress.
Okay.
And he's great. He's awesome. But you could just tell, I was like, okay, there's a lot going on here. But as soon as that last show was done, he got everyone together, took a big picture, which is really super cool.
That's cool.
And just you could just feel like the stress go away. It was awesome. And then the specials are great. It's a lot of fun.
So when they do a special like that, is it multiple shoots or do they just kind of...
It depends. That one was, I think pretty much they just used the majority of one show. I don't think they spliced in much of the other ones.
Okay.
I think it was just the Sunday show. But it was a really cool experience to be part of.
Now, did that lock up for the whole week? You couldn't do anything else? You just kind of were just working on this thing?
All Bert every day, which is cool.
And you got to hang out with them?
Like when he showed up at the Agora, it was really, really neat. He wanted to do Cleveland because of some of the content he thought would work really well in Ohio. And so he shows up, and I'd never met him.
Because he's not from here?
No.
He just... randomly chose Cleveland, I guess.
Yep. Okay. Well, he's got a lot of friends here, and I think he's done a lot of things here in the past.
Okay.
So he definitely has some Cleveland knowledge and connections.
Okay.
But he opened the door, he walked in from backstage onto the stage, and he goes, "This is awesome." Yeah. Like, all right, this is going to be good. So that's how I met Bert.
Nice. That's awesome, man. So do you have any plans to do any other specials there? Or,
Anytime we get a call from Netflix or the people who work with them, we're all about it. Yeah.
It's lucrative, even though they're tying up for the whole. What do they do? Just good. Rent out the whole thing for?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
That deal, we worked with a promotion company called Outback that we do a lot of business with. They're a really good company out of Nashville, where they handled a big chunk of it, a lot of the heavy lifting, and then the Netflix producers come in and do their thing, and so it's a collaborative effort, but it's good.
Nice. Yeah, that's something I didn't know because I don't really seek out comedy shows, so I guess I wouldn't have known that. So
we did 2 nights at Louis C.K. That was really, really cool. That was, we weren't allowed to promote that. It was just basically him promoting it and his fans just coming to the show.
Is it because of the controversy with him? Which I think is, I don't know. I don't want to come across, whatever, but, he did ask for permission.
Yep. I think you and I are the same mindset. Of all the disgusting things that some people get away with, we still listen to Michael Jackson. So
right, yeah.
I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. No, I am going to talk about the Louis C.K. thing. Okay. Because he, of all the comedians, I think he's the most honest person. Like you could it just comes out in his comedy. He says the things the fucked up things that people are thinking, know?
I think
says
Louis
it out loud.
Brilliant. He's great. Yes.
And even the way he went at that, because he came back and started doing shows and he talked about it. He would mention it and bring it up, and he's like, if you ever thinking about jerking off in front of somebody and you ask them for permission, just don't. Even if they say yes.
Yep. Lesson learned.
Yeah.
I just thought it was great when he did his comeback comedy special when he had the giant sorry sign behind him.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's fucking funny.
Yeah. He's perfect. And it's a shame that that all that stuff happened to him, because it's not just him. He's gonna survive. He's still gonna make money.
The way he's done his comeback's been amazing. But I go back to my two favorite comedians are Dave Chappelle, current comedians, Dave Chappelle and Louis C.K.
Yeah.
And one of Dave's bits is like, I haven't been canceled yet, but we'll see. And that's kind of everybody's, all famous people are on eggshells, and there was definitely a time where people were getting away with way too much and they needed to be called out. Now we're kind of the other end of that spectrum. So
right. Well, like guys like that, they have a popular enough following. They could always do stand up. I mean, if somebody's going to book them or whatever, and their people are going to come out and see them. Absolutely. They don't care about the whatever. But what I'm saying is because Louis C.K. had a TV show going on. He had all this stuff. So, and there's a lot of people that are employed underneath him.
Yep.
They're the ones that lost out.
Right.
He didn't necessarily.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like when you go after somebody for something frivolous, I'm not saying there's guys out there that did awful things, and they should. You know what I mean? But I don't think he's one of them, man.
Yeah. I think we're the same mindset.
Yeah.
What Louis, his whole thing is like, hey, I'm a scumbag. This is what I think. And he tells you that. He's not out there saying, hey, I'm the most perfect, pristine human you're ever going to meet. And then he does something that's questionable, but absolutely legal.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. It is crazy.
But, the way he's handled it has been great. His comeback is excellent. He's doing well. He's still funny. So when he was at the Agora, I'm like, man, is he going to tone it down and be different? Nope.
Yeah.
He was great.
So you weren't allowed to promote it because of all that stuff. What was actually said?
So, I'm not on the marketing side, so I don't know exactly what the messaging was. My interpretation of it was that he wanted his fans, you and I were talking about how you go search out music. Right. I think he was looking for his fans searching for Louis dates to go to his website, say boom, because he's so popular and so famous.
Right.
People want to see him and pay to see him.
Right.
That he just, instead of having some random come in and just scream at him, he doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Just have his real fans be there. Yeah. And it was awesome. It was really good.
That's cool. I'm going to have to go check out some comedy shows over at the Agora now.
Definitely.
Well, do you book comedy at Jacob's Pavilion too, or no?
It's tricky. We tried to do one last year, just didn't quite work out.
Yeah.
We certainly would.
Yeah.
I don't know how it would work with a comedian in the middle of a punchline and a boat blowing a horn right behind him or her, but right. I think it'd be cool.
Now, are there bands also that you're thinking, they're like, hey, we want to do the Agora? Well, no, maybe you'd be better off at the Pavilion, or what? Is there a conversation that happens like that?
Yeah, there definitely is. And we try to get the right artist in the right room and the right venue, and of course the calendar matters too.
Right,
we're not going to put somebody in Jacobs in November. That's just not going to happen in Cleveland.
Yeah.
So we got basically Mother's Day till October 1 or 2 or whatever the date may be to do really cool events down there. I have Lamb of God, Mastodon, Kerry King, Unearth there this summer, which I'm really excited about. I got a Friday night for that one.
And I'll be at that one.
It's cool. I'm pretty pumped about that.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, because I was going to ask you, what are some shows that are coming up that you're kind of excited about? So.
Definitely excited about that one.
Yeah.
That one's going to be good.
And that's going to be at Jacob's Pavilion?
It is.
Oh, nice. And when is that again?
It's the second Friday of August. Second Friday of August, the 9th, I believe.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Yeah, so Mastodon's 2 consecutive years out there, which is great.
Is that right?
Yeah, because they were there with Gojira last summer.
That's right. I was at that show.
That was a good one too.
Yeah. No, well, I think I went to Jacob's Pavilion I think I was there like 4 weeks in a row at some point. Because honestly, I went there and then I saw somebody else was playing there, and it's a band I wanted to see, but the venue sold it to me.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I'm like, I just want to be down there.
Yep.
You know,
and AG's put a lot of money into it, and they're like Kevin, the GM over there, is doing all kinds of cool projects, and he's just he's a smart dude, and he's got a lot of cool things he's working on for this summer too. So it's neat.
Okay, so does he do like the booking there, or you do all the booking?
No, so Kevin actually, when I bought Peabodys back in 2005, was a security guard there, and now he's the general manager at Jacobs, which is really really cool. The booking there is done predominantly out of Detroit. I have a few shows booked there this summer. I think I booked 3 there last summer. I have 3 there this summer. But it's fun doing the bigger shows too.
Yeah, nice. All right, so okay, so I kind of want to know a little bit more about this place that was Trilogy.
Yeah,
I think now is it still going to have like it's going to be a more rock thing, because Trilogy was more like house music and I don't even know what they call it back then, acid jazz and stuff like that, you know, whatever.
Yeah, it was like a techno club back in the day.
Yeah.
Okay. So 2 cool events I saw there. I think it was Organ Grinders Ball, and Mushroom had played it.
Oh, really? Nice.
That was a blast. And then I was at the last Tiesto show there right before it closed down. Those are 2 very memorable events that I saw. And I went to a couple club nights back in the day.
Sure.
But essentially, the concept is we're going to rip out those bathrooms to open the whole space up, so it's going to be bigger.
Oh, I see.
Than what you remember
when you walk in, and they were to the left there. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
That entrance is going to be gone. That's all going to be like either green room space next to the stage, and the rest is going to be opened up.
Oh wow!
So it's going to be cool.
And then there was like that other room in the back.
That's going to be the entrance now.
Oh yeah, because that's on the more popular street over there. What is that called? Okay, yeah,
it's off of Main.
Right.
Yeah, so you have the restrooms and the box office and the entry are all in that space you're talking about.
Okay. Oh, and then where's the stage going to be?
Exactly where it has been.
Oh yeah, because that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that's cool.
That's going to be neat.
And that's cool. Are you going to have seating in there, or is it just going to be open?
It's going to be mostly GA club, so mostly standing. We'll have some elevated seats with good views of the stage, but it's going to be mostly like going to
Almost seems like it's going to be like the Odeon or something. You know, to have a big boxed room, kind of.
I guess similar vibe. I think that the design is going to be significantly better than what the Odeon was, but we'll let people judge that when they go check it out.
Okay, so you're putting a lot of money into it then, just building it out.
Yep,
that's cool, man. And when's that expected to open?
Hopefully March.
Wait,
so
this year?
11 months.
No, I mean, we're past March.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's cool. That's actually kind of soon too.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm already booking shows for 2025. I got, I think, 4 or 5 booked at the Agora already, so we're starting to work on that room now.
Nice. You think this is going to be a little overwhelming or what?
Nah, I think it's going to be good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So you're going to be running Agora, Pavilion, this place.
AEG will be, but the nice thing is we have enough staff to do it. It's not like, and that's the other thing. At Peabodys in the early days of the Agora, everybody reported to me, and now I only have one person reports to me. So that's
good.
Nice. That's been a bit of a change. And the other thing is, like, my staff stuck with it. Yeah. And so I get to go to work with people I genuinely like every day, which is really, really cool. We kept awesome. We kept really, really good people.
Nice. All right. Well, I think unless there's something else you're going to say, I think we kind of covered every aspect of you being around Cleveland. I mean, I can go into, it's like I try to hold back, Liz. I want to ask you to tell some crazy antics and stories and stuff, but then it just seems like you're talking about people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like there's so many times where I'm like, I wanted to, I'm like dive into, well, give me some dirt on this, you know what I mean? But, you don't want to go on and talk shit about people.
Yeah, I try not to do that. I try to talk about the good stuff and the good memories. And
So I guess when I cut this camera off, I'm going to ask him all that stuff.
There you go.
And then it's going to be between him and I. But no, Chris, thanks for stopping by, man. I love doing this because I really enjoyed going to Peabodys. I enjoyed talking to Dan. I enjoyed talking to you. Gio from Flashes was here.
Great.
It's like all these memories, and talking to Steve last week and everything. It's just these are great times, and I think just kind of bringing all this into the digital realm. So maybe somebody's going to write a documentary someday, and then they can grab some quotes from you here and this thing. But all right, man. Hey, thanks for stopping down again.
Thank you.
Once again.
I appreciate it. This is fun.
All right, man. Sub CLE, we're out.